Bonjour à tous, merci beaucoup de votre présence dans la salle de presse et aussi je vois sur Interactio pour cette conférence de presse avec le président du Parlement européen, David Sassoli, qui vient de faire son intervention au début de la réunion du Conseil européen. Monsieur Sassoli fera son résumé des déclarations et puis on donnera bien sûr la parole aux journalistes intéressés. Monsieur le Président.
Sì, buongiorno. Come di consueto ho aperto il Consiglio europeo, ho invitato i capi di Stato e di Governo a cercare una grande unità per rispondere alle esigenze dei cittadini di tutti i Paesi. Abbiamo bisogno di fiducia, di unità, di buona organizzazione, di fare in modo che i sistemi nazionali non deludano le aspettative nei confronti di un processo di vaccinazione che può farci uscire da questo tunnel. In questo momento c'è bisogno di grande responsabilità. Stiamo in un momento molto particolare, come vedete tanti paesi stanno richiudendo, stanno ritornando in zone rosse, riproponendo lockdown, la pandemia non è finita. Ma nello stesso tempo abbiamo una risorsa inaspettata che è arrivata prima del tempo e che oggi può essere utile per salvare la vita e per riprendere la vita dei nostri paesi. Quindi in questo momento tutti i paesi dovrebbero essere concentrati, c'è bisogno di grande unità, c'è bisogno anche di fare in modo che l'approvvigionamento di vaccini sia adeguato, sia sempre più adeguato, ne abbiamo sempre più bisogno, c'è una fame di vaccini.
Appetite for the vaccines amongst the citizens, and we need to properly think about where these vaccines go and how they're being produced in massive scale, and at the same time they need to be sent out to where they're most needed, based on need. Because what the Commission is doing, we hope that our measures are up to the task of being proportionate and being very mindful of what we're doing. At the same time, we can't afford, of course, to stop. We need to keep on keeping on and to be on our guard and act swiftly. And respecting the contracts in transparency. We need to insist on the need to get these clauses with teeth in them to really kick in. Contracts have been signed. And the failure to comply with the rules that they entered into willingly themselves, the sanctions, I think, will be necessary in some instances. So in the European Union, we'll have to carry on expressing and transmitting that trust to our citizens. And today, quite natural, there will be appeals made. Some governments, of course, have expressed their irritation. They wanted the possibility to go their own way, to produce on their own. But of course, I understand that temptation, but the appeal from the heads of state and government is to focus, to join together, to pool our resources, to do the right things for the supply systems and distribution systems to work smoothly. And then, in the European Union's responsibility, of course, it is a fine message that we're conveying through our action. The European Union, through its institutions, has tremendous responsibilities. The Parliament called upon the Commission repeatedly to act transparently and consistently, and we don't want to place the blame at the doorstep of the European Union because of so-called insufficiencies in the national systems. We've already seen that a number of times, but that is not something that we need right now. When it comes to today's Council, well, of course, people are awaiting the statement by the President of the United States, Joe Biden. Well, great. We're pleased that relations between Europe and the EU are back again. We're looking forward to that, and we want to find our way out with an exit strategy of this pandemic, but not as a fortress. The European Union will continue to insist on what sets it apart in international dealings, in dialogue and frank exchange, in good faith. We're willing to do everything, and even when we deal with the harshest authoritarian regimes, we're prepared to enter into a dialogue. And as was recalled in the Council, over the past months, a number of MEPs and a number of organizations went to China. Well, we thought that was unacceptable. I said it to the European Union, the European Parliament are not a punching ball that you can just wave a finger at or punch in the face. We need to have a hard stance, and we need to be up to the task. The European Parliament will not fail in very short notice to consider the agreement that we have with China. The EU-China agreement will be very cautious and look at the details to ensure that we get our focus right and we have our position with a high bar of ambition. And there are a certain number of things that we cannot allow to go unchallenged when it comes to the rule of law and human rights, fundamental human rights. That's the message that we conveyed. And in the Parliament, in these talks with China, we saw what happened with the international talks where we're very present and very active. Thank you for your attention. Thank you. We can start now with the questions. I don't know if there are any questions from the room. I do see some questions on Interactio, so David Curran first.
Grazie. David Carretta, Radio.
Thank you, David Carretta, Radio Radicale. I have two questions, President. The first relates to vaccines. The data provided by the European Commission states that more doses produced in the European Union have been exported than have been administered in the European Union. Should we be doing what the United States, the United Kingdom and India are now doing, who de facto or essentially have a ban on exports, or let's say prioritise their citizens when it comes to providing vaccines? Now, the second question relates to the China agreement on EU-China agreement on investments. Do you believe it would be possible to ratify that if the sanctions that China has imposed on the European Union are maintained? Thank you. Thank you. Well, I think my introductory remarks responded to those questions, essentially. I mean, we need to apply reciprocity and proportionality. They're our criteria. Obviously, we have to help low-income countries, countries in need, countries that are having difficulties. That's a responsibility that we have to maintain. Also vis-à-vis the countries in our neighbourhood who expect gestures of solidarity from us. But there needs to be proportionality and reciprocity, and that's why I think the Commission provisions go in the right direction. We can't even allow ourselves to even waste a single dose of vaccine, or to transfer vaccines to countries that don't need them, or countries that are using vaccines for business purposes. That's not the right way to use vaccines. Now, on the China issue, as I said, we'll be looking at the agreement very carefully, and we don't want to see economic issues taking priority over issues that relate to rights. So obviously this examination will take place in Parliament, and the Parliament will draw the appropriate conclusions. But rest assured that there are fundamental and human rights that are inviolable, and these are things that we've shown also when it comes to issues that are internal to the European Union, and this point of view, this principle, will be upheld in our external relations as well. Next question, Thomas Mugini.
Yes. Swiss television, Thomas Videnin. Do you think it's possible to get this certificate, a digital certificate for vaccination for the summer period? In the European Parliament, I think that they did vote for an urgency procedure. But the fact is that we need to reach an agreement in turning the 27 different state apparatuses into something that will be a standard digital. Well, in the news on that point, the Parliament recently did adopt an urgency procedure, and as you will be aware, some of you will recall that in the past, the European Council, it was me to suggest that very idea in my inaugural speech. It's very important. It's a very useful tool, non-discriminatory. If you don't get vaccinated, you will have to respect the sanitary procedures that apply nationally, and you have to be able to show that you're not as dangerous as others. That would be useful for transport, for tourism, for all kinds of activities to be conducted safely. And we need to reopen. Our European economy is an open economy. We do business, we travel, we as tourists, we have cultural travel, and we don't want to constitute a threat to other people, a risk to other citizens, or when we go to music events, museums. We need to do it, and we have to do it safely. And this is one tool to make it safe. Those who decide of their own free will not to get vaccinated will not be punished, but of course, as is the case now, they will have to respect the normal sanitary authorities' rules nationally. And I have every confidence that this tool, everybody will understand just how important it is just now. It is a moment of very trying times, all of these economic activities coming to a grinding halt, and this will be a very precious tool, will open up our lives and our enterprises. Thank you.
Ci sono anche delle domande qui.
I don't know whether there are any questions from people here in the room. I see none from people on Interactio. Are there any further questions? Please.
Presidente, Emanuele Bonini di News.
President, I wanted to know what your expectations were with regard to the debate with Joe Biden and the possibility of perhaps having some kind of additional assistance from the United States when it comes to the supply of vaccines. Well, this has been a very specific year, I think. We've faced the largest challenge of modern times without our natural partner, i.e. the United States. The previous administration was committed to dividing Europe and also to dividing the United States from Europe. And I'm pretty sure that if we'd been able to confront the pandemic together, we would have been stronger. Our point of view is well known. Even when the previous administration thought differently, we've always believed that multilateralism and relations between the United States and Europe were important. We've always worked to ensure those, and therefore we await a signal from the new president that is consistent with what he said in the past. Obviously, we don't want to create fortresses that can't communicate among themselves. We don't want to emerge from the COVID crisis closed off from each other. So we need to continue dialogue. Obviously, relations with the United States are extremely important. They need to be relaunched in the appropriate manner. We need to think of post-COVID times now. We need to think of about what the world's going to look like after COVID. And I think that's something that the United States and Europe can do together.
Here, the last one. Christian, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. Buongiorno, Christian Kerr from the German Funke Media Group. President, I would come back to the sanctions by the Chinese government. On Monday, you have said that the sanctions on MEP will have consequences. what are you thinking about apart from the investment agreement? Do you already know what consequences will that be? What consequences have you already taken, maybe? Thank you. Grazie.
Noi siamo...
Well, we were very much affected by the attitude of the Chinese authorities. If they wanted to hit back at MEPs or institutions of the EU for having expressed opinions on defending human rights and to provide guarantees in the Chinese Republic, we are convinced that China has made a huge mistake here. As we speak, we're waiting for the Chinese almost at the end of the river, and in considering the agreement, we'll do it accordingly, painstakingly, but nobody should think for 1 second that there will be no reactions. We never work based on emotion. We are driven by an attempt to come up with effective mechanisms that are going to work, and that is what we intend to do. Thank you, everyone.